Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I apologize, I had to redo the audio on this particular video because the last one didn't turn out so well. So this is my EDH Eldrazi deck, of course, starring Kozilek, the Great Distortion. I will caution you that this deck does run a couple of cards that I believe are now currently on the ban list. My playgroup and I, though, we don't typically follow that ban list, so this is a really rather high-powered deck. This is the kind of thing that you play with people who are playing equally powerful Magic. You wouldn't want to take this to a casual Friday Night Magic game. You may not get invited back after playing this deck at that particular event. So Kozilek is a great creature and an awesome general. He is colorless, which means you can have no colored spells in the deck. He has a really unique ability, which says that basically I can use him to counter any spell that is being played as long as I have a creature or an artifact in my hand that has a casting cost equal to that spell being cast against one of my creatures or myself. He's very fun to play. Changes every time I play it. The deck plays differently. I hope you enjoy the video. And like I said below, let me know in the comments down below if you have any card suggestions. And here we go. So for the land base, I'm playing Wastes. I don't have a ton of these. That is why I'm only playing with a couple of them here. There is one creature in the deck that does take advantage of the Wasteland, but I'm not currently using that. As you can see here, I'm also playing the Orska, which is another great land. All the lands you're going to see in this deck, they do something differently and give back to the deck in some way, shape, or form. They either help me boost out an Eldrazi for a lot less, or they do things like returning something to my hand, or allowing me to sneak a creature into play, or making it so that my opponents can't attack me, or even sometimes allowing me to destroy their lands that they are trying to put out into play. In fact, I think the lands might be among the most expensive things in the deck, which is kind of funny because some of the other cards I am playing are quite expensive. I'm playing the Darksteel land. I'm also playing Vesuva. Vesuva is really handy. It's nice to be able to grab another land or make a copy of somebody else's land. Rogue's Passage is another fantastic land. Does a lot to kind of keep you alive sometimes. It's just one of those great cards. I run that card actually in a few of my decks. Thespian Stage is another great card. It's pretty funny. I think I've only activated it a few times, but when I have, it's always good. Majoring Network is another one of those wonderful land cards. It does a lot of great stuff for you. I'm going to try to not drone on throughout the whole video. So, Maze of Ith and Mystifying Maze are two cards that I also play in this deck. They're both just great control cards. Sometimes you have a creature, you just need to stop it from hitting you in the face. And so these cards are in there for that specific purpose, because sometimes you're tossing creatures into the bin and waiting to get them back. Of course, I'm also playing the Sanctum of Ugin and the Eye of Ugin for obvious reasons. They're both great cards. Yeah, that's all I can really say about those two. I'm playing also with many of the other great colorless lands that do wonderful things, like the Temple of the False God and things like that. This is one of those lands that I'm never sad to see come into my hand. It's always been a very good one to play. I will post the actual deck list in the comments below. So if there's something you see, Crystal Caverns is another great card. Drown Your Temple is wonderful, and that is the Zoetic Cavern. I like that one because you can also turn it into a morph creature. So if you don't need the land, you can have it as another body on the board as well. Ah, yes. Foundry of Consoles is another great land. I'm also running Ghost Quarter, which allows me to destroy my opponent's land. And I'm also running Strip Mine. Again, these are just in there to remove something specific that is causing me some grief. I'm running Scavenger Grounds as well, which will allow you to sacrifice a desert to exile all cards from all graveyards, which is fantastic when people are playing graveyard stuff. Shrine of the Forsaken God and Temple of the False God are also in there. And I'm playing Teutonic Edge. Again, another land destruction card. There's the wonderful Strip Mine. That's the Ruins of Oran Reef. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's a wonderful card. It comes into play tap, but it does let you put 1/1 counters onto target colorless creatures that enter the battlefield this turn. So that's kind of nice. And I've got the Reliquary Tower because sometimes I'm holding on to cards specifically to try to counter a spell that's being cast. There's the Urgatron, as you can see. And that is the end of my land base for that particular part of the deck. I do plan to add more wastes to the deck. I don't know, I can go either way on that. I'm running the Voltaic Key, of course, which is a wonderful artifact. Rings of Brighthearth, one of those cards that I feel is a little bit underappreciated and underplayed, but it is a fantastic card. It allows you to basically duplicate any of your abilities that you have on your creatures. So if you have, for example, something that can do an Annihilator ability, I believe you can copy that. I can use it to do things like duplicate any activated ability that isn't a mana ability. You can pay 2. If you do, you copy that ability, you can choose new targets for the copy. So that's a fantastic card. Hedron Maze, of course, or Hedron Art. Oh, I'm tripping over my tongue, sorry. The Hedron card is also fantastic for extra mana. You'll notice the mana base in this deck is a lot of ramp. It's a lot of artifact ramp. I'm playing, trying to get as much mana out as fast as I can because typically I'm holding on to a really massive creature and I want to get it out into play. So you'll see things like the Basalt Monolith, the Blinkmoth Urn, Astral Cornucopia. I can go either way on that card, but every time I have it, I've played it, and it's worked out to be really good. I also have the Everflowing Chalice, Expedition Map, Gilded Lotus, Hadron Archive, which you just saw. I am playing a Mana Vault, which is a marvelous card. And I'm playing Sculpting Steel. Nothing says awesome like 2 Mana Vaults. I'm also playing the Tamio's Journal, which is a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can investigate, which means you can put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield that you can then sacrifice to draw a card. You can sacrifice 3 clues to search your library for a card, put that into your hand, and shuffle your library. Playing the Vidalcan Ori for very obvious reasons. There's nothing better than having instant Eldrazi's, so that's pretty fantastic. I'm playing the Dark Steel cards to give all my artifacts indestructible. And I'm also playing the Unwinding Clock, which is a very fantastic card. Untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step. That's a fantastic thing to do. And you can see there I have the Swiftfoot Boots, the Lightning Greaves, and I've also got the Whisper Silk Cloak in the deck, which is nice when you're trying to make a giant Eldrazi with Annihilator, 4 or 5, unstoppable. Making them unblockable is kind of fantastic. I also am running Mage Mirror, which is really nice. It's an artifact, 3 cost. You pay 2 and it becomes a copy of a target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until the end of turn. So, hey, nothing says awesome like 2 giant Eldrazi's crushing your opponent. Alright, now we're getting into the spells. And what you're going to see is I'm not playing a ton of actual spells in the deck. It's a lot of artifacts, it's a lot of creatures. But you are going to see some of the standards for Eldrazi's, for the colorless. So I'm playing Not of This World. That's the 7 cost counter target speller ability. It costs 7 less to cast if it targets the speller ability of a creature with 7 power 7 or greater. Playing the eldrazi conscription, skittering invasion, spatial contortion, that kind of stuff. And you can see there I've also got the standard Soul Ring. Turn 1 Soul Ring is awesome. That's all I can say. So I put this deck together. I've had Eldrazi's, and I've been wanting to play Eldrazi's for a really long time. And then I saw game nights, and I saw an Eldrazi deck being played, and it wasn't just that she was crushing everybody with it. It was seeing the control aspect and seeing colorless being played almost like blue. And I typically do like to play like a blue mage, so I like to play a lot of counters and control. The card you just saw on the screen there, that's a Grim Monolith. That's the World Championship deck version of the Grim Monolith. Obviously, that's not something I could play in a tournament. That card I've got in a black sleeve, so you can't see the backing of it. And it does have the proper rounded corners, just like all the regular Magic cards. So in my deck, I can't tell that it's there. That's just why I was showing you the back of the card there. I'm also playing the Blinkmoth Urn, which is really nice extra mana. You tap an artifact and you get mana for every artifact you have, so that's kind of fantastic. And yeah, there's the Everflowing Chalice as well. So actually watching her play the deck and seeing just how powerful and soul-crushing Kozilek could be, I was just so tempted to play it. I couldn't resist it, so I had to pick it up. One thing you're going to see as well is I have a lot of, like, these cards are all double sleeved, and I've started picking up a lot of foils for a lot of the cards in the deck. It's anybody who plays a lot of Magic can tell you, once you start putting together a deck that you play a lot, that temptation is there to start sort of foiling it out and getting fancy on the lands, getting the full art lands, I've actually started buying altered art lands where people have extended the artwork and made paintings and things like that. Again, not tournament playable, not something I would really play, but I'm buying them because I think they're wonderful pieces of art, and I'd like to have them in my collection. That is a Thran Dynamo. That's a fantastic artifact. Tap for 3 colorless mana. That's the Astral Cornucopia. So that card is interesting. I don't think it gets a lot of play. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else play it. So I'll just read you the text on the card. It's XXX, so it enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. You can tap it, you choose a color, you add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool for each charge counter on the Astral Cornucopia. So typically what happens when I'm playing that particular card is I slam out a whole bunch of mana into that card, and after I've done that, every turn after that I can tap it for whatever I put into it. So for example, if I tapped and threw 6 mana onto the Cornucopia, every time I tap the Cornucopia now it's worth 6 mana, so it's pretty awesome. That card right there that you're seeing on the screen is another fantastic card. It's used to cheat big giant monsters into play. That is a Quicksilver Amulet. You pay 4, tap it, you can put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, and it is fantastic. Nothing as satisfying as not paying 10 mana to put a giant creature onto the battlefield. I am playing also the Seer's Lantern and the Staff of Nin. The Staff of Nin, you tap it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get to draw an extra card, so that's really what it's there for, is a bit of card advantage. I have Nirvanal's Disc in there because once I've given my things indestructible, it's kind of nice to go pop goes the world, and then my stuff stays and your stuff goes. That is a Palladium Mirror, and that guy is another tap for colorless mana. So he's just more ramp basically in the deck, but he's also a creature that I can use as a jump blocker if I need to, and I can also use him to counter a spell if I have to. The Colossus of Akros is actually one of the cards I'm probably going to change in the deck. I had it in there because I often am able to make him monstrous 10, and then he becomes a 20/20 indestructible creature who loses defender when he gets the +10 monstrous on him. So often I'm holding on to him and then I play him as monstrous, and he's quite hard to stop. Of course, I've got the Steel Hellkite in the deck because, I mean, it's a flying dragon. I mean, I love dragons. He's also a pump creature, so you can use him to pay X. You can destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X, whose controller was dealt damage by the Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability anytime. Oh, sorry, only once each turn. So that's pretty awesome. What you're seeing there is Ugin the Spirit Dragon, but this is an altered art version of Ugin. I do have the actual card, but I just really like this particular piece of art. So it feels and plays just like any regular Magic card that I have. So I currently have it double sleeved and in the deck, but often I slide it out. If I'm going to play, I put in the real Ugin and then play with that card instead. But I just wanted to show you that I had an altered art version of that card. This is this is probably the first Angel I ever got when I was playing Magic the Gathering. Basically, I can't lose the game. My opponents can't win the game. He's a nice stalling creature. And, of course, the good old-fashioned Darksteel Colossus, indestructible when he gets destroyed or killed or gets thrown into the bin from anywhere. You can shuffle him back into your library. So he's pretty awesome. That's another one of the first creatures I got when I started playing. I started playing on the Mirrodin block, so I was opening packs of Mirrodin, Darksteel, and Fifth Dawn, and got that guy naturally. That's the duplicate. He's fantastic because he becomes whatever you need. And that is the Golem. So that guy is kind of nice. He basically is in the deck to do one specific job for you. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the card here because I dropped it. Super professional tonight. So the Geode Golem is basically there. He deals combat damage to a player. When he deals combat damage to a player, you can cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. And so that's really nice, especially if you have the commander tax on your creature. To be able to reduce the casting cost to 0 is always good. As you can see, the main creatures in the deck are all of the Eldrazi's. The whole theme of the deck is to get as many Eldrazi's out in play as quickly as possible. The deck plays actually a couple of different ways. Either it seems to play really as a control deck where you're countering spells, or it's just a crushingly fast giant monster deck, and you start annihilating your opponent's board with Annihilator, and it becomes very hard for them to deal with it very quickly. For a deck that doesn't have a mana curve of color, it sure does play really fast. I'm finding that every time I play it, I never have a game where I'm really hurting for mana. I find that the mana curve is very manageable, and that I'm always able to get those monsters out into play really quickly. In fact, the general comes out into play really rapidly. I think it is because I have so many mana generating mana rocks in the deck, and ways to just get so much extra mana out into play real quick. And so this guy is just another alternate win condition. He allows you to find other cards you control from outside of the game. So I do have a small sideboard of cards that I often take with me that I can put into play with this particular card. But being that it's a singleton deck, it's not necessarily going to be the card that I win with. I'd like to tell you that the deck was very cheap to build, but unfortunately it isn't. The Eldrazi's themselves weren't very expensive, but the all of the different lands and the artifacts are very expensive, unfortunately. There are lots of alternate ways that you can put this thing together, though. If you're looking at building on a budget, um, please, make some suggestions in the comments below. I'm sure that other players who are playing EDH who are interested in playing a deck similar to this would love to know ways that they can put together something on this level without breaking the bank. The Eldrazi's, to me, they remind me of the Cloverfield monsters, so they were a lot of fun for me to play. I kind of feel like you're bringing the monster to the party. Um, and you get guys like Kozilek in here, and they're just backbreaking when they come out into play. They're worse than slivers. This is a deck I often will only bring out um, when I know that the other players at the table are bringing out basically their top tier decks. And the reason that I say that is that this is quite a. It's not something you're going to play at a casual Friday Night Magic game with your friend who only has a EDH, tribal deck that they just can't curve out against this thing. Um, and I think that's kind of one of the nice things about playing EDH is that most people understand that we're supposed to be trying to have fun here, and we want to play a game that will be challenging, but also not backbreaking and a lot of fun. So I do try to temper playing this deck against that as well. As you can see, the last few cards are all foiled. That's just how I got them out of the packs. Actually, I got very lucky, um, you know, and so of course I've hung on to those foils. And there he is. So this card, this is Emrakul, Aeon's Torn. Now he's currently, I believe, he's banned. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't follow the banned and restricted list. My group doesn't follow that list. Um, so we just go ahead and play on. But I can see why he would be a concern. I'm sure, being able to take that extra turn is really, really annoying and backbreaking. But basically, that is the deck as it is. And I think you can understand that, why it is a deck that I have some success with. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will definitely be trying to post more of these. I'm going to be building a little, basically a little area where I can do some more videos. My plan is to put up an EDH video every now and then. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Check back here, give us a like and subscribe, and have a great evening. Take care.